Welcome to Sincerely Bhakti, a project where I explore scripture with my intellect and with my heart. This is episode 8, where I discuss the simple logic of reincarnation. I am reading from the Bhagavad-gītā as it is, with commentary by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Reading from chapter 2, verse 27. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So in the Bhagavad-gītā, these are the first instructions that Lord Kṛṣṇa is giving to his friend Arjuna. Arjuna doesn't want to fight, even though he is a warrior. It's his duty to fight. So that's where Kṛṣṇa is referring to his unavoidable discharge. Arjuna has an unavoidable discharge of his duty, which is to kill. Unfortunately, the people on the other side are his family members and his friends. So the very first instructions that Kṛṣṇa is delivering to his friend Arjuna is the nature of the eternal soul. And there's something very breathtakingly beautiful and simple about the logic of this verse, where Kṛṣṇa says one who has taken his birth is sure to die. You know, every living entity on this planet who has ever lived, who is living now, who will live in the future, every single one has taken birth or come into being, and every single one of us is going to die. The body is going to die. And that's where Kṛṣṇa is making a very powerful distinction. He's making a distinction between the body, which perishes, and the soul, which is eternal. So, as a warrior, he needs to understand, Arjuna needs to understand, that by doing his duty, it seems gruesome, but he is simply meting out justice. And the principle of reincarnation helps us to understand and grasp that justice keeps going. And in fact, justice is karma, the law of karma, that whatever one does sows a certain kind of reaction that will come back to us, whether that's positive or negative. So the laws of karma and reincarnation go hand in hand, because if I do some activity in this life, maybe I die unexpectedly, where does all those good deeds or bad deeds, what happens to those? It happens when my soul takes birth into another body. So the simple logic of the fact that we are all born and that we're all going to die, there's a logic here where it says after death, one is sure to take birth again. So this cycle, this unending cycle of birth and death. And Prabhupada writes here, one is to take birth according to one's activities in life. So whatever we've done in the past, that determines our birth in this life. And also after finishing one's term of activities, one has to take birth for the next, right? So in this way, one is going through one cycle of birth and death after another without liberation. So this cycle of birth and death is the true source of suffering, and not so much the comings and goings of happiness and distress in this life. This is the existential question and suffering that Kṛṣṇa is addressing in the Bhagavad-gītā, which is ending this cycle of birth and death, which is just so painful. And I remember once I was giving a class many, many years ago on a scripture, and I was asked at the very end of the class, kind of out of the blue, why does no one want to die? And I said a little prayer because I had no idea, at least in my brain. But the words that came out of my mouth, I've remembered them for myself all these years later. And somehow I spoke and said, nobody wants to die because the soul is eternal. And the soul is in an unnatural situation. The soul lives forever, but is in a body that dies. And this painful mismatch is what causes so much suffering. And this painful mismatch tells us this is not our home. This repeated cycle of birth and death is not where we're meant to be. So when we understand that we've all taken birth and that we're all going to die, that simple logic of understanding that no one escapes death can also be applied to the fact that, for one, after death, one is sure to take birth again. So you could say, oh, this is so hopeful. Okay, I'll take birth again. Well, on the big scale of things, the whole point of spiritual life is to not take birth again ever, or to go through the process of dying, because it's so painful. It is not our nature. The soul is eternal. We're not meant to be here. We're meant to go home. So, thank you for turning into this episode of Sincerely Bhakti, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Hare Krishna.